All right, let's jump right into this fast-paced market analysis of the literally explosive chatter surrounding a highly secretive pre-IPO SpaceX device. You know, as any seasoned financial analyst will tell you, the period leading up to an initial public offering, it is a total breeding ground for rampant speculation. Investors are always hunting for that hidden catalyst, that secret project that's going to massively inflate a company's total addressable market or TAM, right before they can buy in. So today, we're putting our analyst hats on to look at one of the absolute biggest rumors to hit the tech and aerospace sectors this year. We are going to dissect the headlines, figure out what's real, what's just noise, and what it actually tells us about SpaceX's underlying strategy.
Because here is the big question we're looking at. We're evaluating a classic pre-IPO scenario where rumors are just running wild. And we really need to ask, is there truly a revolutionary AI handset waiting in the wings to dazzle investors? Think about it. If an aerospace and satellite internet company suddenly pivots into the consumer smartphone market, wow, that completely rewrites our valuation models. Why? Because suddenly we aren't just pricing in rockets and broadband anymore. We'd literally be pricing in a direct competitor to the biggest consumer tech giants on the planet. A move like that changes the whole game. So we've got to look closely at where this claim actually came from.
Section 1. The WSJ Report, a pre-IPO market catalyst. Let's break down the exact origin of this week's massive market buzz, which actually stems from a very detailed, high-profile report by the Wall Street Journal.
According to the report, this supposed handset prototype is basically an analyst spec sheet dream. It boasts a proprietary OS, XAI integration, and Qualcomm silicon. And what's truly fascinating here is how perfectly this aligns with the broader Elon Musk ecosystem, right? A proprietary operating system suggests a closed ecosystem, kind of like Apple's, which creates a massive economic moat. Then, integrating artificial intelligence from XAI would create immediate synergy across all his companies, using the Grok language model to power on-device intelligence. And throwing Qualcomm Snapdragon chips into the mix, that lends instant, undeniable hardware credibility. On paper, this is exactly the kind of highly integrated, vertically aligned product that gets institutional investors incredibly hyped, mostly because the profit margins on a closed-loop tech ecosystem are just staggering.
But hold on a second. The original report actually did hedge its bets. It noted that management communicated to investors that this hardware project is highly experimental and honestly far from a sure thing. This is a crucial piece of risk management we absolutely have to highlight in this explainer. You see, in the world of venture capital and pre-IPO funding, companies love to show off skunkworks projects. These are these highly experimental prototypes that show off what the tech can do, rather than a guaranteed product roadmap. They explicitly stated the design was still evolving, so as analysts, we have to pump the brakes and be extremely cautious here. We have to heavily discount potential revenues from a product that management themselves admits might never even see the light of day.
Which brings us to Section 2, Management's Response, the Reality Check. Let's see how the company's leadership reacted when this explosive narrative hit the mainstream financial press. Well, hopping onto X on Wednesday, Elon Musk issued a categorical two-word denial that instantly poured ice water on the entire smartphone speculation. Utterly false. Now, in market analysis, the speed and the bluntness of a management denial are really critical indicators. When a CEO swats down a rumor this quickly and this clearly, it usually means the market is entirely mispricing the company's actual strategic direction, and leadership wants to snap investor expectations right back to reality. It's basically a flashing neon sign saying, stop looking at consumer smartphones and look back at our core business model.
All right, Section 3, the fundamental pivot, following the CapEx. So the really crucial point we need to ask is, why did the market so readily buy into this rumor in the first place?
If we look at the fundamentals, SpaceX is pivoting, and they are pivoting hard. They're pouring billions into AI infrastructure, Grok, and space-based computing to put themselves right at the center of the global AI race. In the finance world, we have a favorite saying, follow the CapEx, or capital expenditures. You can ignore the rumors, but you absolutely cannot ignore where a company is physically spending its billions. SpaceX is undeniably expanding way beyond just launching rockets and selling Starlink internet. They are heavily funding massive data centers, advanced silicon, and the insane energy grids you need for advanced AI and space-based computing. Why? Because running sophisticated large language models like Grok and building a global satellite network to process data in orbit, that takes an astronomical amount of capital. And because they're spending so much money on AI infrastructure, the market naturally tried to connect the dots, wrongly assuming that this level of spending must result in a consumer AI device. The strong fundamentals basically created the perfect fertile ground for this handset rumor to take root.
Moving on to Section 4, Tracing the Narrative, Starlink's Mobile Ambitions. Let's take a look at how this builds on historical precedent by tracking the timeline of these mobile connectivity rumors.
Rumors like this rarely happen overnight, right? They snowball. Mapping out the history, we can see a clear pattern of escalating market speculation this year. It evolved from Musk's own kind of vague January comments all the way to a full-blown WSJ prototype report in July. Back in January, Musk left the door cracked open a bit, saying a Starlink phone wasn't entirely out of the question. By February, financial wire services like Reuters were reporting on plans for a mobile device to rival traditional smartphones, heavily tied to the Starlink network. And then by July, boom, it had morphed into this highly specific, Qualcomm-powered AI handset prototype reported by the Journal. This timeline shows us exactly how market narratives get constructed piece by piece. The market took a vague possibility, fueled it with real CapEx data, and escalated it into a total fever pitch pre-IPO expectation.
All right, Section 5, the competitive AI landscape, rumor versus reality. As any good analyst should, we've got to contextualize this rumor against the broader competitive landscape.
Because you can never analyze a company in a vacuum, and this brilliantly illustrates the current sector reality. Look at the stark contrast. While SpaceX's device remains an unconfirmed, highly speculative rumor, peers like Microsoft are already out there unveiling real, tangible, Qualcomm-equipped AI hardware. This is the fundamental difference between market noise and market reality. While everyone was totally distracted by a speculative SpaceX smartphone, established tech giants are actively deploying capital and putting actual AI edge devices into the real world. We always have to weigh the speculative tech against the tangible tech that's actually hitting the market. For instance, Microsoft's tangible prototype aims to be an always-connected assistant for completing tasks, which really highlights the very real AI hardware ecosystem SpaceX would be stepping into. Microsoft is pushing a real enterprise solution here, a wearable badge that acts as an AI agent for workers, packed with voice, touchscreen, and camera integration. This just proves the AI hardware race is already moving incredibly fast and requires immense operational focus. If SpaceX actually entered this arena, like the rumors suggested, they wouldn't be in some blue ocean market making their own rules. No way. They'd be fighting tooth and nail against deeply entrenched software and hardware titans, companies that already have dominant platforms, massive developer ecosystems, and physical products in their hands.
Finally, Section 6, the analyst's takeaway, re-evaluating the SpaceX moat. Let's wrap up this explainer by assessing what this entire news cycle actually reveals about SpaceX's underlying roadmap. Ultimately, this whole rumor forces us to ask a really provocative question ahead of any potential IPO. Are we drastically undervaluing SpaceX by just looking at their rockets, when their true future value might actually lie in their massive AI infrastructure pivot? Think about it. The phone itself might be utterly false, but the billions of dollars being poured into space-based computing, AI integration, and the Grok language model, that is utterly real. So our key takeaway as analysts today is that SpaceX is evolving at an unprecedented scale. They are building an economic moat that extends all the way from orbit right down to the data center. The market was completely wrong about the smartphone, but they might be absolutely right about SpaceX's transformation into a dominant, diversified AI infrastructure powerhouse. So keep your eyes on the CapEx, not just the headlines. Thanks so much for joining me on this experiment.